weather pattern with an early rainy season.
Correct.
And with a heavy rainy season. So we're expecting this year to be something that we have to pay attention to. We've been doing a lot of work, but the work requires a lot of people to participate. So what we're asking for is reporting of information back into source while we have dry weather. We expect rain for the next 2 days. Our information is all out there, but while we are in the dry season, at least until we get to June, please listen to the calls for information outside there and send in the reports. If you see something that you know will be a problem when there's a lot of water, a river embankment, a clogged drain, a tree that could fall, a road that is potentially prone to landslips from the slope above, you need to let us know, because we're costing all of those things and performing the works right now. It really takes each one of us to do our part to get there, because if you look at the weather patterns around the globe, it's not the same, and we have to pay attention. So that's a quick one. Reach out, call out. All of our 14 corporations were on the ground. We're actually going into a mid-year in the Parliament shortly, on the 10th of May or thereabouts, asking for more money so that we can make sure that the local government reform kicks in and that we do these things. Big part of that local government reform, as I quickly end on that, local economic developers. So we're looking to bring to life some exciting pilot projects that we have pioneered. And maybe some of what we're going to talk about today has some space in that, in terms of, the road ahead within the law, obviously.
All right, thank you so much for shedding some light on that. And I know, as I said, you have a busy evening ahead of you with all that's taking place. I don't know if you might have to go and physically pull the Porsche out of the water. And that's a story by itself.
Nice one.
But I'm telling you, Trinidad and Tobago, if they don't see you personally out there in that water pulling the vehicle, they might hear something.
I'm in training.
Well, the way you're looking right now in the physical, you're looking like you're ready, and that is another conversation. Ladies and gentlemen, or to say more ladies and gentlemen, your heartthrob of a minister is in the building with us this evening.
When you put a 2 next to a 3, right? The 3 all of a sudden looks like a 10. So all I'll say is that the pack rankings around us, we're in a little trouble, so we're trying hard.
Boy. Let me have a conversation quick. Joshua, let's get a panelist to come inside. Let's bring it back home. It's all about heights. Minister is here with us.
Minister, thanks for joining us. I like to get right into it.
Yes, Josh.
The burning question is, decriminalization happened in late 2019. So people are asking what's taking so long for the medicinal industry to be up and running. What can you say to people asking that question?
Quick snapshot. So December 2019, we turned on the law. We did the decriminalization. And at that point in time, we then went into specifically the second part of the equation. The second part of the equation was to bring to life the cannabis industry. Economic exploitation in a good way, religious opportunity in a good way. So we went into, and I had the pleasure of chairing the Cannabis Control Committee, the Joint Select Committee. We put it into Joint Select Committee. We received massive contributions. We took that from the Parliament just as it was ending in 2020 when we had a general election. We brought it over into the next Parliament. Then entered an event which we have all begun to hope to forget, which is COVID. Whilst we finished the legislation, we went into COVID. COVID had significant consequences upon us. I spent every 2 weeks and almost every other night literally drafting laws myself for the public health regulations and the ordinance. Those were some very brutal days. Short story, we passed the cannabis control law. And in fact, we assented to the law. What does that mean? We turned on the law, but we have certain acts of proclamation to do. We're at the stage right now of bringing in the board of directors for the Cannabis Control Authority. That's the authority which will license the several types of licenses that we have. And that is also the authority which will develop the regulations for usage. The good news is that the Office of the Attorney General, together with the Ministry of Health, and I should say that I'm also still the chairman of the Law Revision Committee, so I sit on the law as chair. We're drafting those regulations. So even though we had the hiccup with COVID, we passed the law, which is a serious thing because at least we have the framework law into effect. Now it is where the build-out will come with some rapidity. But we haven't been waiting while the board is being appointed. In fact, the cabinet door was knocked on already by the Minister of Health to create that committee. That is the board of directors. And what we will have is the regulations meeting that shortly.
Minister, I don't know if you wouldn't want to reveal too much, but can you tell us if you have drawn on experiences across the region in drafting these new regulations that we're about to see?
Absolutely, yes. I can tell you that back in 2019, 2018, when we were developing the law, we already looked at all the regulations. You have different models of regulations, and I know many people listening to this program might actually know them pretty well. So you have very thick and precise regulations like in Antigua. You have framework legislation like ours in Barbados and Jamaica and Grenada, St. Vincent and the Grenadines, and the regulations are there. What we have are some very useful tools in those regs, and that will tell you how you get the license, the inspection of the premises, the growing under quality. Remember, part of this law is anchored in local content, right? So the law has a minimum requirement of local content, and that bit is coming into effect. There's been some good developments in the international narcotics arena where there's been some standardization. So there were some elephants in the room that people weren't acknowledging. Largely, where does the supply come from? If you go to Holland, it's illegal to have certain things, but yet there's supply everywhere. So there was that big elephant in the room. What we did in Trinidad is we solved that by saying where your supply can come from. And your supply can come from under the Cannabis Control Authority. It comes from the license to produce, license for cultivation. Same license for cultivation that goes. Remember, we got medicinal and we have religious, and those are the two branches of this thing. And in the medicinal, there you have the opportunity to do the sales and the structures under license and requirement. Export is a big business, obviously.
And, there's no contemplation at touching the existing Dangerous Drug Act, which allows for 4 plants per personal use also.
Excellent question. Sharp question. I couldn't say with precision. Data is what feeds us. This law, this cannabis control law, when I piloted that law in Parliament, I got a very rare opportunity to see the statistics I contemplated come to reality. One of the reasons that I pushed and the government accepted the decriminalization of marijuana, there were a number of reasons. Quite quickly, we keep talking about the criminal justice system. Crime is the number one story. We're talking about crime as a public health situation. Well, okay, if that's the case, what are the statistics for dangerous drugs? The largest that we saw was marijuana. And when they disaggregated it for the young people, the ages, etc., male to female ratio, 8,500 people a year were being locked up for very small quantities. So for me to get more judicial attention to fight bigger cases, my philosophy was, let's take out the decriminalized amount, and 8,500 cases a year disappeared. It's the same way we took out 104,000 motor vehicle and road traffic cases. Instead of them being in court, they came out under demerit points. Now the data showed us, by the time we did the Cannabis Control Bill, which became an act, something that I had as a supposition, I said to the Parliament in inviting them to decriminalize marijuana, I said, we spend 96% of our time, 96% of our resources in the forensic center is spent on analyzing plant-like substances. And do you know what? With the decriminalization, we saw a 93% drop in the workload of forensics, which gave them time to look at rape kits, bullets, guns. So it was an orientation exercise. Now, to answer your question, because I went to Mars and Venus and back, your question was, are you going to touch the 4 plants?
Yeah.
The data is going to speak to that. So the data that comes out of the police, the societal appreciation, and the conversation that the public will have when that data is produced in the hands of the Cannabis Control Authority, because the authority who's developing the regulations, they will have the world data, the region data, and the local data, and then they can make an informed decision about that, because that comes down to supply.
Minister, I had a related question. I remember last time you said it was illegal to sell cannabis. But if a person is permitted up to 30 grams in their possession, what law is there specifically to say that it's illegal to sell up to that amount? Isn't it a matter of someone can say they're bartering for, let's say, $200 in exchange for the 30 grams?
So, unfortunately, I'm here still wearing the hat as a minister of government who actually is in a peculiar situation. There are not many sitting ministers of government who also sat as the Attorney General for 7 years, which was probably the longest sitting Attorney General. So I can't answer that question, because then I'd be volunteering legal advice and I'd be putting my government into trouble. So I respectfully ask you to allow me to not answer that, because there are too many permutations around that in terms of answer.
Let me just come with the curveball question that came via WhatsApp. Does the minister use the herb?
No.
Okay, no. There goes your answer, ladies and gentlemen.
Why? I could tell you why. I could tell you that it's because in my job, it's going to sound so corny and self-serving.
To the truth.
It's a stressful job. And in my family, I've looked around at members of my family and I recognize that genetics is a very serious thing. And I don't want to expose myself to the risk of an addiction.
Okay. But you can. So in other words, legally in your job and field you can.
Yeah. I mean, well, there are laws that we passed in the decriminalization. We say you can't be at work with it, you can't be, and then there are of course public sector regulations, etc. But for me, I take health seriously as best as I can. You have a short trip on this earth, and you have an obligation to look after yourself. It's more a matter of balance for me. I believe in mind, spirit, and body, and I just not there yet with the herb.
Would you ever?
Possibly. If, for instance, it came to me by way of a recommendation that for a particular ailment it was recommended, like CBD or asthma or fits and seizures, etc. There are a lot of things that you've read about, and medicine is certainly there. I'm very much open to that, provided it is recommended as right.
But what about a guy's vacation in Jamaica and Bob Marley playing in the background and they're like, Forrest, come on, man.
Why not? I might.
Maybe. Okay.
Right? Yeah, I can't say that I wouldn't.
But you know what? We're going to get back into our serious conversation here, guys. Let's take a quick pause. This is Heights. Keep it locked on where knowledge grows.
Slam 100.5 FM, Freedom 106.5, and the hosts of this program do not advocate the sale, distribution, or transportation of cannabis, especially for persons under the age of 18.
That's the sound of Kushite. She was one of our guests just last Tuesday on our program. This evening, we have Prophet Benjamin. He's going to be joining us a little later on. Right now, though, ladies and gentlemen, we have the man, the myth, the legend. That's the best way to put it, all right? Former Attorney General, Minister Faris Al-Rawi, the man who would have been, right up in there, right up in the front line of the battle in putting us into the same set conversation that we are allowed to have this evening, and we thank him for being here with us. Kia Thomas, one of our other panelists, would like to come in with a couple points at this time. Kia.
Hi, good night. So our Heights Nation, they come to us and ask us a lot of questions. One of the questions that they're asking is about, is the government interested in patenting any strains specifically for Trinidad and Tobago? And if that's the case, and if they are seeking to do that, how will that work if they are seeking to also encourage the private sector?
Interesting economic question. So a patent would apply in relation to a genetic patent or so there are different types of intellectual property. You've got copyright, industrial design, patents, and then you have certain types of plant varieties that are protected. So we're not talking copyright. That might be a look and feel and how you're packaging, which you could have. So your branding might be great like Nike is, right? So there's opportunity there if you get your product right. A patent is something which is capable of industrial application. So it must be novel and it must be capable of industrial application. And by novelty, it means nobody else must have it. So genetic patents are where you come into certain types of plant varieties coming on the side of that. So I'm trying to break down intellectual property law into a simple area. So there is an opportunity for genetic patents, sure. If you think of the world industry in corn, they now have genetic patents in respect of corn so that they produce this corn and in fact it'll only yield, let's say, 2 crops, and after that you have to buy more. So you can't use the corn and grow it elsewhere, etc. So genetic patenting is a huge issue in the world. Now, the region lends itself to the champagne effect. Champagne is sparkling wine, but it's only called champagne if it comes from the Champagne region in France. So you can't call white sparkling wine champagne unless it comes from the Champagne region. One of the cells in the Caribbean, thanks to Jamaica and thanks to Trinidad, if you look at our cocoa production, for instance, we're reputed to have some of the best plant varieties there. Getting into cannabis, we're going to play catch up with the rest of the world that has been experimenting, particularly on the THC derivative sides and the CBD sides. They have come up with very fine strains. You obviously know a lot more about this than I would. But I had to pay attention to the technical details. So to answer the question, yes, it'll always be open. But the government is not necessarily itself interested in being a player, as far as I'm aware, in any patenting exercise. That's for the local market. And anybody that invested in the technology, which is a very fine and specific science to it, would have that opportunity, sure.
Okay, good. Thank you very much.
By the way, our intellectual property office, big up to Regan Ascarali. He's the intellectual property man. He's a controller. We have one of the best in the world. While I was AG, I got to participate in creating a bedrock of intellectual property law, which I'm a huge fan of. I have a master's in intellectual property law. It's an area I love. So it's an area that I think is ripe for economic exploitation.
Yeah, I like the sound of that right there, actually, because that's an area.
An important area for you, eh?
Yeah, not just for me, but for a lot of creators as well. A lot of people don't understand the importance. Even myself, I don't think I have a full handle myself, but at the same time, I know how important it is to really get involved with intellectual property rights and, controlling all of that. That's real big right now. Joshua, are you going to come in, Derek?
No, I was just going to respond to Kia's question with my own knowledge base. I mean, it's kind of hard to lock down a pattern with genetics, because once you grow a plant and you clone it, and it's yours, and you could take that and breed that with an next plant and then come up with a whole new strain. That's just how genetics work now. So it kind of, I mean, there are ways they could breeders could lock in the genetics, but it's rare. And usually you pay for the seed. So when you do, they charge a high enough price that, and they're well-known brands. So
but there are derivatives down the line that are capable of economic exploitation, right?
Course.
So the manner in which you put it together becomes there. So am I going for a pill, a spray, an eye drop, a different method of application for something that is known?
Where the uniqueness
That's where the novelty comes in. And I have to tell you, we have a lot. So in the Ministry of Rural Development, we're doing some really exciting things, right? So we're building rural development by rural development. We have app developers. We are beta testing some apps right now where Trinidad and Tobago can go on and report with a geopin everything. Street light, flood, drain, broken this. Because open source data brings in. That's going to apply to this industry too. The more data you have. And this is why I'm always thrilled when Joshua reaches out to me and says, do you want to come on? Yes, because the more you talk about reducing things down to data and information is the more opportunity you're going to have. We talked about decriminalizing marijuana for decades in this country. How did it happen? I'm a fan of data. So for me, I promoted the issue as part of the criminal justice system reform because one of the data sets was that I had 8,500 people getting arrested and spending $25,000 a month to keep them in jail per month. It was the combination of data that invited the common sense or prudence in decriminalizing it. But you have pros and cons because you have to respect, as the Prime Minister always says, would you want to know that the captain of your plane is high while he's high? And therefore, regulations and other positions have to be put into place, right? This decision ultimately came down to the boss, the PM, agreeing that this was a prudent step for Trinidad and Tobago. And that really came from his love of the CARICOM. In case you haven't noticed, the affinity that Dr. Rowley has for the CARICOM is obvious.
Minister Alwari also here. How are you going? It's always a pleasure to have you in studio with us here for Heights. I've been watching what is happening in the Caribbean. I mean, we've seen St. Kitts and Nevis are going to Parliament early next month. To talk about their cannabis control. And just as a question that many people have been asking us is regarding our legislation and where is it at this time. We know it's before the president at this moment. So give us a sense of. I know you may not be able to rub the crystal ball. I know it's going to happen in a month, 2 months, 3 months, but people need to know. I mean, just a refresher, not just where the bill is going and what will be inside that cannabis control bill when it comes to the licensing authority, because that is something a lot of people have been asking. What license? I know you would have said it last season, but just to reiterate to people as to what will be in that authority, so that people can be able to access, or prepare themselves to be able to move to the next stage.
Thank you, Otto, and thank you again for having me here. So let me jump to the Parliament website for you quickly. And what I can tell you is that it's already There's no bill before the Parliament. We passed the law. It is a law already. It's an act of Parliament. What we're waiting on right now is the proclamation of the full law. Proclamation is the step where you turn on the law that has already been passed by Parliament. The Cabinet has to take that step. The Minister of Health already came to the Cabinet saying, I'd like to appoint the board as the cannabis authority, the people that will start the engine. So they jumping into the car. We constructed the car. We have the engine, the tires, the gas, the everything. He's putting a driver into the seat. The driver is the board. That authority, which is comprised of those members, is currently before us now. We're getting the nominees and representatives, and then they populate. As soon as they are in, they're off and running. In the meanwhile, the Office of the Attorney General and the Ministry of Health, they've been busy crafting regulations. Technically, the regulations have to come from the authority. But what they're doing is they're preparing the work so that when the authority people get in there, they have material to access. And again, we're not reinventing the wheel, because there's some very good regulations in different parts of the world and in the CARICOM itself, and that's what has been used as some of the modeling. So on the crystal ball approach, I anticipate that in a couple of months, you should be there with a locked-in board, your authority is there, and then the system is a matter of turning it on. Remember, for any law to work, 4 things: plant and machinery, people, processes, and then the law. We have the law. The processes have been mapped out. The people are being installed. The plant and machinery now, where's their building, where's their office, where's their systems, where's their database? Those things are being tied in with process management. So it's not an impossible task if you approach it. And I think that it's going to be certainly an exciting thing. I'm sure, Otto, you mentioned St. Vincent. A lot of people have gone to St. Vincent, have invested there. Trinis are there, as you know. We all know who's there and who's not there. So there's a lot of learned experience in the Caribbean, Jamaica, etc., Barbados, where we can get these things coming in. It was big news when the first shipment left the Caribbean to go elsewhere, right? Yeah. So hopefully we'll be in that position sooner rather than later.
How long do you foresee before we have a functional authority and ballpark figure, functional authority and the function dispensaries? 2 years?
No. You mean fully functional, meaning licenses issued, right?
Yes.
I'm an optimist for something that is driven with vigor. And I think that this is a self-perpetuating industry that isn't that hard to manage because there's so much precedent around us. I think it would be safe to say 2 years, but I think it can be done before that.
Okay, cool. I think we have a call, Sonny.
Actually, we want to go to our phone lines, 624-1005-6235001. It's now 15 minutes on the upswing to 7 o'clock. We know we have a short time remaining with the minister inside, so we'd like to take some calls at this time. Also, something I've been observing, and I don't want to word the question wrong, because I just kind of grab it off the top of my head as I remember as well. I've observed recently in the US, they've been going through a lot of issues on the stock market with the same cannabis. How would that affect people like ourselves who are we now thinking about getting into it, and they're now reporting outside that they're having some of the worst times on the stock market where cannabis is concerned? What does that mean for us?
Well, stock market is when you reach to public sector investment in private companies. So to get on the stock market, you have to float. You take your company public. So if you've got shareholding in a company and you want to get more capital to invest, you sometimes say, well, okay, I'll take a portion of my company, the shares in my company, and I will offer it to the public under the rules and regulations of the Securities Exchange Commission, the stock exchange, etc. So let's say you have a company with 100 shares and you're looking to you want to raise $25 million so you can invest it back. You come up with a prospectus. You go by the Securities Exchange Commission, you go by the stock exchange, you go by the regulators. You tell them, listen, I want to offer 49 of these 100 shares to the public, or 30 of these shares to the public. And then there are rules that they come up with as to how you can offer it and when it goes for sale. That's a big difference away from the private sector. Take a look at Twitter. The clawback of Twitter into the hands of Elon Musk was almost a re-centralization of a public or larger entity, right? So companies can go different ways. There is no difficulty, I think, in saying that whilst the US market may be in turmoil, as it is with crypto, as it is with FTX and different things, there are always ebbs and flows. That's not to say that the private enterprise wouldn't do well, because clearly there's a local market. Pappy's, one of the best chicken you'll eat.
Agreed.
Geez, just big shout out to Pappy's. Look at where they started.
True.
The guy who started Pappy's, I remember, as a lawyer for Scotiabank. He was working in Scotiabank. And he said, people said to him, look, your recipe is so good. And when I visited him when they were in Diego Martin, he said, boy, you remember when I was in Scotiabank?
Right.
Today he's running one of the best and most successful chicken franchises that I think could go in all sorts of different places. Yeah. So your private market is still very strong. If and when you reach to the size that you want to float to go public, that's a different concern. And I think the Caribbean has advantages.
Let's go to our phone lines. Let's see who we have with us joining us on the program. Good evening, you're live. Welcome to Heights, where knowledge grows. We inside a segment powered by 1212 Grow Shop. Who's this?
Hi, good night. Good night.
Yeah,
good night to the minister.
Good night.
Personally, I never liked the idea of decriminalizing the marijuana, but I know it's gone past that already, right? What I wanted to ask is, how do you prevent, or what laws would be there to prevent someone from making, let me say, brownies and putting it in something unknown to me?
So we still have the Dangerous Drugs Act. And the Dangerous Drugs Act, we never legalized marijuana. We decriminalized the possession of certain amounts of marijuana. And you were then subjected to a fixed penalty ticket. So for under 30 grams, you have a particular bracket between 30 to 60, etc., right? The use of marijuana is strictly controlled in the amendments to the Dangerous Drug Act. But we have never said that that is not a dangerous drug, because the International Narcotics Control Board, which we are subjected to and we have certain treaty obligations in derivative ways, we have to comply with the law. So use of it and unlawful use of it is still regulated by the regular law. The regular law, of course, people are subjected to liability. So you can't lace something with Visine. I'm going to use that example. There's a person in public life who notoriously said put Visine in their water.
Yeah, I heard about that.
That causes all sorts of effects.
I never knew that until I heard that.
Visine is an example of an over-the-counter product which can be lethal if used badly, but there are legal consequences to these things. So you can't administer a dangerous drug to somebody without knowing about it. What the Cannabis Control Authority is intended to do, because it gets down to derivatives including edibles, it's to set up an environment where you are unmasking reality. So whilst many people in the government didn't necessarily support the use of cannabis, when we looked at the pros and the cons, we said, look, the pros outweigh the cons. Let's deal with it. I'm the parliamentary representative for a beautiful place called San Fernando West. And in my constituency, I saw people being arrested for small amounts of marijuana. Some days they're arrested and some days they're not. There needs to be consistency in the approach. And one of the things the government is committed to is taking young people out of conflict with the law. And you have to start every which way that you can to do that. So if you can take them out of conflict with the law with marijuana, you're now talking about crime in a different dimension. It's not bullet and gun crime we're talking about. It's taking them out of the effect of being arrested for something that they may not culturally or societally think as bad as other people do, and therefore avoiding them going into prison for a different consequence and reality to come about. Because try and hire somebody with a conviction. Try and tell a child, get back on track. I mean, let's be real is what the government did. We said, look, let's deal with the thing in the room and be real about it and come up with structures around it to make it a little bit safer and better. Same thing we did with gambling. There was a big push against gambling, but we came up with the gaming control law because people work legitimately in this industry, so why have it underground? Why not regulate it? And people who are addicted to gambling can receive treatment. One of the positive effects of decriminalizing marijuana was that a lot of people that were buying under the doublesman cart, the supply that existed in a particular place, you would find people buying marijuana that was laced, and you would find terrible side effects from mixed use of drugs. One of the things that anecdotally is there, and the data will come out, are less people developing psychoses because of the use of marijuana, because there's a safer product on the market. That's a good exploratory question which will be answered. So are we better off or not? The data will speak.
Yeah. Nice, man. I appreciate this conversation that we're having here this evening, guys. Of course, this is Heights Where Knowledge Grows, and this segment is sponsored by 1212 Grow Shop, located at 103 St. Vincent Street. 1212 Grow Shop is your place for grow tents, lights, AC, infinity fans, GeoGreen, Mars Hydro, General Hydroponics, soils, and nutrients. You can give them a call at 267-6600 or 301-1212. I have with me, of course, my panelists, Joshua Simongal, Otto Carrington, Kia Thomas, and Derek Achong. And, of course, we continue our conversation with Minister Faris Alwari is in studio with us. And we have another special guest that we'd like to introduce. Joshua, talk to us.
Yes, you have Empress Quillen from Quillen Achat from Steakham. It's a plant. I think you're a constituent of Minister Alwari, right? I know you're coming on in the following segment, but I know you had a question you wanted to get.
And we're also taking calls now, so we can feature the question now, yes?
Yeah.
Come on now, actually, check us out on the side by Otto and the team over there. Hi, good evening. Welcome to the program.
Yes, blessed evening. Thanks so much for having me. Representing the Southland. Yes, all the Southern charm. But Minister Alwari, firstly, on behalf of the Rastafari community, we have never had the personal time for me to really thank you for the work that you did. You know, as you said, it took decades for us to reach to this point. So decriminalization was a big deal, you know, especially for the Rastafari. But when I hear you talk about ganja, talk about the herb, one of my issues is that it falls in line with the vices of society. We are looking at it as it is a drug. You know, you compare it just now to gambling. But the thing about it is, so my question is, one, would you agree that it has medicinal benefits?
Sure. Remember, there are pros and cons in everything.
Okay, before we go, right, so I just want to question this quick because, so there are medicinal benefits. Do we agree or disagree that cigarettes does not have medicinal benefits?
So in the consultations, we spent a lot of time with members of the Rastafarian faith going through all of these very clear and precise points that you're putting forward. Let me just say this. The reality of the situation is that the government has not legalized it, despite the cry for legalization. The Rastafarian community represents a section of society that is extremely responsible in its utilization of this drug, as some people call it, or of this herb with medicinal purposes, as other people call it. And there are very strong and heartfelt views one way or the other. What we did was to take a halfway house step, because sometimes you need to step into the water slowly. I'll give you an example. We turned on judge-only trials. There was a big hue and cry. No, you can't have judge-only trials. You have to have a jury. Judge-only trials have worked really well. People even being convicted for murder, sentenced to hang and not appealed.
Okay.
So there are pros and cons both ways. So the government's approach, remember, we're not representing one element of society. We're representing all of society, those for and against.
Overstand.
Our position was to take a measured approach and then let the data begin to speak for itself.
Okay, so coming again to my question, are cigarettes, which are legal to sell, are they beneficial to society?
But basically the thing with the argument is heroin, through morphine, is negative and positive at the same time. So to use the argument, I mean, nobody loves weed more than me, but we got to be fair.
So just a yes or no. Cigarette. I say cigarette. As Rastafari, we say cigarette. Because what I know about this particular product is that it's full of chemicals. It's full of artificial things. Over the years, and this is a campaign, even when the war on drugs was a highlighted thing, that, you know, they talked about it. So my thing is that we have a framework in society where, if we are talking about capitalism, and I know it's not my segment yet, but, you know, I just want to frame that there are people on the ground in society living, hardworking people, living in the realities where, whether the law is legal or not, there are certain things that are happening. And if the government is in touch with the grassroots, then we know that, hey, these laws need to be changed because they're not effective. And cannabis was one of those.
The problem with your approach, not a problem, but if I could just put a spin on the approach, is that there are different sides and elements of what is grassroots. You have grassroots born-again Christian, you have grassroots Methodist, you have grassroots Muslim, you have grassroots Rastafarian, you have grassroots all sorts of things.
Yeah.
We are not a company, so you can't run a country like a company, and we are not a homogeneous society, a unified society where everybody comes from the same makeup.
Yeah. Well, I know they want to wrap up this section, so what I would say is that we need education.
Yeah, the minister.
We need education.
Seven money dots, so I don't have to end up cutting you at 7 man.
Education. You know what I mean? I think that
you're very right, sister.
From the caller, what people have said, the thing is, it is medicinal. It is a plant. It has been used for centuries. It's not us inventing a wheel. Legalization is a new thing because it has never been criminalized before. It is only within the last 50 years and the war on drugs that we know now that ganja is a drug. But it has always existed.
On our customs laws, you'll still see featured in our laws, because we have saved laws from the 1800s, you'll still see the importation of cannabis.
Yeah.
It was a prime commodity.
Yes.
No, Mr. Minister, I love the conversation. I know you're going to be staying with us for the rest of the evening as well, too, Empress. It's a pleasure having you on board. And Mr. Minister, it is now 6:57. We know you said you're going to be leaving at 7, and I don't want you to just have to jump and run out of the room. So, gentlemen, I don't know if you have one last question or any closing remarks we'd like to have from the Minister before he makes his way out. Thank you again for joining us on Season 2 of HIGHTTS.
Thank you for having me.
Minister, given the, I just want to go to this question. Given the long-standing historic linkages between the Caribbean and cannabis, do you believe in the potential of the industry, in the regional industry, that they can compete at a global scale, given the setbacks we've had, the war on drugs, the length of time it's taking to get the medicinal cannabis board in place and in the industry running? Do you honestly believe that we can compete at that level and give the likes of the United States or the Holland a run for their money in our own way?
My answer is yes, and I'll put it down into one word: champagne. So the champagne example I gave of, you can't call sparkling wine from California champagne because it's from California, it's not from Champagne in France, right? The bottom line is, remember, look at the timing, guys. If you look at the glass as half full, things begin to change, right? Where are we right now? We're in the CARICOM in a conversation with the Caribbean that hasn't happened since Eric Williams and the Federation was being talked about. We are in economic accelerated development for a unified CARICOM. CARICOM is taking a fight on the war on guns by joining the American prosecution of the gun manufacturers. CARICOM is talking about single economy. CARICOM is treating about laws to treat with public health and etc. When I was Attorney General, we developed a WhatsApp group of Attorneys General. We would share all the law that we were developing at any one point in time. Pick up the phone. Hey, Jamaican AG, wonderful lady Marlene Mallow who fought. Marlene, what do you think about so-so-so? Dale, what do you think about so-so-so? And we have a great AG, Reggie Armour, fantastic guy in the saddle, running with the same thing. So where we are now in CARICOM lends for a degree of marketing that is just exceptional. So I think, actually, quite fortuitously, coming out of COVID, looking at the linkages, you saw Prime Minister Rowley with Prime Minister Motley with Prime Minister Holness. How often you see things like that? Look, my hair standing up on my arms just talking about it. CARICOM is in a level of union that it has not been before. So the marketing of the Caribbean experience, what is Dr. Rowley saying? Let's grow food together. Let's have airlift together. Let's deal with our cricket together. You're a bigger fan than cricket than Dr. Rowley. You can't find, right? But look at where the CARICOM leaders are right now, and then bring that to HIGHTTS and talk about Empress's concerns, etc. It depends upon how we want to define ourselves. I will say this, please, if you'd allow me. Sometimes our attitude to ourselves in Trinidad and Tobago can be our worst phenomenon. Things bad, things this, everywhere. Listen to me. This country is amazing, and every single year, minus COVID, we get to see it in Carnival. Best music, enjoy our streets, enjoy our culture, enjoy each other. And that is a reminder. This year during Carnival, I have to tell you, geez, well, I remember who reached under criticism for saying the next carnival will be the mother of all carnivals. And then there was a big debate about whether it was the mother or the niece or the child of carnival. I'm accustomed to taking my lash, right? But my point is that you have to dare to dream in positivity. And I would just like to make a clarion call to young people out there. Don't get arrested by negativity of older generations who just fed up or don't want to continue.
All right, Minister, I know you have to run. I had a question, but I definitely sure that we can get at another time because you have made yourself accessible to the show, and I just want to thank you for coming here and, clarifying a lot of the questions and concerns that the Trinidad and Tobago have, especially with persons complaining about the four-plant issue. When is the control? When the proclamation is going to happen? When the authority is going to be set up? And I think what you have given today would have given us some level of clarity and answer a lot of the yearning questions a lot of people would have had, especially coming to us, that we can definitely get someone like you here to clarify those concerns and questions. Right, Sonny?
You have me always available. I'd just like to give you a small plug. At Rural Development, there are a lot of phenomenally exciting opportunities on the plate right now. Big. I'm talking about in our ministry, the first time we've actually had the ministry applying to earn revenue is now. Because there are lines of revenue. And the big issue of employment, be it under cannabis or be it under local area for hydroponics. Remember, if you're growing cannabis, chances are you could grow anything else as an expert. Because if you took your time, look at Derek's face. The man was talking to us about splicing, genetics and breed. Put Derek to grow where we have a food shortage in Trinidad and Tobago, Carter tomatoes and take home $30,000 a month.
Argument as well, eh?
But what I'm saying is that one success breeds for others because they're lineages. Cannabis grows best in certain environments, which the skill and technology behind that applies elsewhere.
No, what I was going to say there, this kind of time, that's for a separate conversation because people have asked, and someone asked me that in the past week since the first program, about folks who would have been arrested, and it's something like in the first season, folks that would have been arrested for planting cannabis years gone by.
You can apply. So in the law, there's a provision where you can apply for two forms of relief. One, if I recall the section correct, is under Section 50 of the Police Service Act, where you can ask for the matter to be treated, and then at the committee, the power of pardon exists under the Constitution, Section 87. The power of pardon is vested in the President on the recommendation of the Pardons Committee. And if you just apply to the Pardons Committee, it's a simple letter and application. The Ministry of National Security is the Home Office for the Pardons Committee. Make your application to the Pardons Committee. It will be entertained and your record can be expunged.
No, more than just the expunged, what I was trying to get at is that, for instance, when you mentioned under your ministry and, people like Derek who could afford to come out and plant different things, because if you could afford to plant marijuana, chances are you can plant a lot of different things. Would you say, and as I said, it's a conversation for a different time though, would you say opportunities have been or can be created for people who would have served time?
Absolutely.
Cannabis in the past.
Absolutely.
And open something for them.
I'll just wrap it up here in saying that money does grow on trees. It's called agriculture.
Yeah.
And we have done a pilot project. Shout out to Shazim Mohammed, Makesi Peters, Sadiq Hussein, young men at my ministry. We have developed a $150,000 outlay for 43 up plants, vertical plants. It will yield $30,000 profit in your pocket every single month. Every single month. Who working in the public sector with a tie on, shiny shoes and pants, going to work every day, not taking home $30,000? That can be grown. We've tested it for 1 year.
Yeah.
So we know what the yield is. These are some of the things I was going to come and tell you about that are exciting because we've been beta testing, meaning in our office testing, all of these products because people just want the opportunity. What we're looking at is to give them the plant and machinery, the people, the process inside of the law. So respect to you and team. Thank you so much for having me here. Anytime you call, I'll happily be available, as are all of my colleagues, by the way. So with the new slimmer version of Derek, with Joshua sporting the pictures of his nephews and not his kids on his WhatsApp, with Otto live and in studio and you Bling and team, just thanks very much. Empress, for coming from San Fernando. They're lucky to have San Fernando people here, right? So make sure they know that.
Well, it's a pleasure to have you in studio with us again this evening. Thanks for the extra time. You did say at 7 o'clock you had to be out. It's already 6 minutes after the hour, so you might have to shoot down the road. But you have blue lights on your vehicle, but I don't, so you might be able to cut through better than I can anyway.
I might take a run.
You know what I mean? And,
And I'd lastly like to say stop the discrimination for the lady next to the tall camera stand.
No, we don't have enough vibe, man. That's okay.
Who's just making sure that you all give her equal rights on equal heights.
Hopefully when they do another
right? So we can have a little, if they're zoomed in there, we'll get it right.
Hopefully when they do our next cabinet shuffle, it could fall into national security so you can come up with some better solutions as well, as opposed to just...
I will leave in silence on that one day.
Assault rifles that we don't make vibe now. I just thought I had to trade that, because it's like a rubbish thing. But I'm not going to go down that road tonight. It's not your fault, okay? I'm certain if you get there, you're going to have some youngsters work on that and come up with some better solutions.
Respect to you, my brother. Take care, everybody. Have a good night. Huh?
Thank you very much for being here. Ladies and gentlemen, this segment, of course, special segment brought to you all courtesy of the 1212 Grow Shop. Thanks for sponsoring this segment. If you want to grow high-quality plants, visit 1212 Grow Shop at 103C St. Vincent Street. It's your place for grow tents, lights, AC, infinity fans, Gia Green, Mars Hydro, General Hydroponics, soils, and nutrients. Call 267-6600 or 3011-212. Stay with us after the break. We're going to come back with some more Prophet Benjamin and more, all in the house already.
Slam 100.5 FM, Freedom 106.5, and the hosts of this program do not advocate the sale, distribution, or transportation of cannabis, especially for persons under the age of 18.
I want to apologize for that quick breaking transmission, quick technical, but we got it sorted out right here. Slam 100.5. We're also coming to you live on Freedom 106.5 FM. You're truly Sunny playing host for Season 2 of Heights, where knowledge grows. We just heard from Minister Faris Alawari. Welcome back to our program, ladies and gentlemen. Of course, Derek Achong is in the building. Kia Thomas, Otto Carrington, Joshua Simongal. Our other panelists are here on the program right now. And added to our program, we have also joining us now the man himself, Prophet Benjamin. It's a pleasure to have him on board as well too. So good evening and welcome to the program. Prophet Benjamin, how are you doing?
Blessed love, my brother. I'm going okay, man. Give thanks for life.
Well, it's a pleasure to have you here on Heights with us. And of course, before we get out, before 8, we're going to ask you a little bit about your music. Maybe you're going to let us know what's brand new on the market, what's happening with Prophet. But this evening on the program, Heights is all about where knowledge grows. And first question, I would like just to toss out to you, it's in terms of the music, the arts, Rastafari. What does marijuana mean to you? What does cannabis mean to Prophet Benjamin as an artist? We know, even as me, I've been in radio for 18 years, so I would have seen your music from then to now. And most of it had a whole lot to do with cannabis and marijuana. What does cannabis, or how does that play a role in the life of Prophet Benjamin?
Well, cannabis, just like lettuce and all other good green herbs that the Lord had created for the service of man. A waka does need surfacing. A car does need surfacing. So the Lord know that the body would need surfacing, the mind would need surfacing, because that is what make up a man, both body and mind. So marijuana was created to service the mind and the body of individuals. So to me, marijuana is food, both physical and spiritual.
Fantastic, man. Empress Q, you all, I want to toss the same question over on your side as well too. What does marijuana mean to you as a woman in Rastafari?
It's medicine. It's a holistic healing. I love how Prophet put it. I mean, we look at it just like tomatoes, lettuce, something to grow, As a woman, it has so many uses for women, it's like menstruation, to deal with that kind of pain during childbearing times. There is ancestral practices of women using ganja to help, not necessarily smoking, drinking the tea, and even at the time of labor, being able to use cannabis to help at that time. So it's a big part of our life, and we teach our youth about ganja as well. My youth, Jacob, has, a ganja brand called the Herbies. We just, we are also moving forward with the progression of the society around ganja as Rastafari. We are also trying to build our businesses, whether they consider us legal or not. We are moving forward because ganja has always been part of our life.
All right, so it's a pleasure to have you on the program, and thank you very much for the gifts. I saw that you
Blessed
came
Earth Strong.
bearing some gifts. I thank you for that. You gave me a potong plant here. Can't wait to see how this one goes, and the brownies that you came with as well. And I didn't jump into the brownies one time. So
big up Ed's Kitchen.
It's my birthday, Otto. I humbly apologize, all right?
If I knew, I would have brought you doubles, honey.
Doubles? Careful.
We have this ongoing thing on IG about doubles. You and I always...
I know, but my point is doubles tonight. Is it infused?
It could be.
Okay.
We're infusing
that's
everything.
That's something to ask about. All right, no problem. But It's a pleasure to have you guys on the program. Let me toss to Kia Thomas here right now. Kia, share some with us.
Good night. And welcome, Empress. It's so good to see you again.
Give thanks, Kia.
Yes, indeed. I love the outfit. Quick question. You would mention before, and not before, but you'd have mentioned that you serve the Rastafarian community. Definitely, that's your heart and love, and
that's why I do what I do.
Exactly, that's your life, essentially. And good evening to all the Rastafarian community out there, Heights Nation. Based on what the minister would have shared previously, do you think that the government is doing enough to support that community, to support the people on the ground? And things take time. Some people would say, things take some time to develop. But do you think that they are moving fast enough, in your opinion, and they are putting things in place, properly putting things in place for the community to develop?
Okay, so let me put things in context for those who listen and don't know about how this struggle came about in terms of where we are now in 2023. Before Minister Faraz Alwari had that declaration on December 23, 2019, Professor Belle-Marie Antoine, who is now the current principal of UE, was the head of the CARICOM Commission on Marijuana. She was the head, right? And she, with other Caribbean CARICOM leaders, did an investigation around the Caribbean, of which Trinidad and Tobago did not participate in, because at the time our Prime Minister was against marijuana and had vehemently said that his government was not interested in decriminalizing ganja, right? But this was a CARICOM inquiry, and it was something that needed to have been done, because in the shadow of America that was already pushing for legalization, as we all are talking, we're playing catch up in an industry that has already blossomed, that is already in the billions of dollars, if we're talking about trading stocks and all of that. As a Rastafari, personally, I'm not really concerned with that part of ganja as a business. I'm not concerned with licensing. The reason being is we do what we do right now. We have been doing what we've been doing for years, under persecution, under oppression, under serious, risk. I'm glad Prophet Benjamin is here. We know he is iconic because Prophet is the man who told people coming from Moruga, and if you know about the traditional farmers of these communities of Bish, of Toko, we're not just talking about Rastafari, but traditional farmers who, I don't know how they started planting herb. It's a real mystic. If you talk to these farmers, some of them started as early as 12 and 13 years old, coming from rural communities and not having opportunity. So they went into planting ganja and they became very good at it.
Now, Prophet, I want to bring you into this conversation because from the time you stepped into the room, I saw that look on your face I'm serious, and I saw that look on your face that said that you're really proud to be here. As serious as your face is, you're really proud to be here because this is a platform that, to me, the artist that you are, this is your platform. This is what you sing for. And you are here not to just be a part of the program because, hey, Prophet Boy thing, you are also here to share. And as I said, I interjected here to bring you in because I want to hear from you without asking the direct question, but I want you to say, what is missing here, Prophet? What do you think the people need to know about cannabis? What do you think they're pussyfooting about? What do you think they're playing games about? What do you think is the real matter with cannabis in Trinidad and Tobago?
Well, we might need about 3 days of conversation.
Well, we have about 40 minutes. Let's see how best we can make it.
We want to bring in some of the elders, right, in not just Rastafari, but who know about marijuana. Because you see them like a Mickey Mouse and them, we want to come and talk about ganja. Them can't make no laws for marijuana for we. You studying marijuana a year and something and you're proud to say that it's a man planting ganja for years. You know much people suffer. You know much people make jail. You know much good people end up in prison for a joint for the same laws that them make. And then today them coming to make over a new brand law now because they change the mind. I don't want to hear them. Them on foolishness. Bring some real authentic ganja man to tell we about ganja. Right? Bring those who have struggled, who have got locked up. Man who could lost the dread for marijuana. You know what I'm telling you? People walking humble, law-abiding citizens who love to smoke weed to keep a calm. Police meet them because of the law, beat them, put them in jail. When they end up in jail, they get more beat up in jail because when you put them inside of there, you put them around places where people that don't deserve to be around.
Yeah.
And then they come back out here traumatized.
With a bald head.
with a bald head. And now you're coming to say what? You could establish a law for ganja, man? I totally against that. I'm not fond of that.
So where do you see this going? We're already at 2019. They decriminalized 4 plants in a yard. I don't know if you can appreciate that or not. Where do you see this going? Where would you like to see it going? Not where they're going, Where would you, like where we started already?
Stop lock up man for ganja all entirely. It is not decriminalized. That is a fancy word for control. Correct. Right? We're talking about legalize marijuana. Is a lettuce. If marijuana is to be decriminalized, do the same for tomatoes. The same for pak choy. Because what is the problem with these food? What is the problem with ganja? Look at it this way. God created herbs before he created man. Go back in the Bible.
In the Psalms, yes.
He created the herbs before he created man. Man was the last thing that God created with blood in it before the Sabbath day. All right? So if God created herbs before he created man, who is man to say which herb is allowed and which herb is not allowed? Who is you? Ganja older than man. So you have to respect ganja. You can't decriminalize a thing that is your forefather. If you bow and salute to ganja and praise the God of weed, you see it?
The second law that they're making is called the Cannabis Control Act. That's the name of the act. And and the other word that the minister kept using was the exploitation of the herb. And I thought it was so interesting because that is what it is. If we get to the nitty-gritty of why it was decriminalized, it was economics. Plain and simple. They saw the writing, and the Caribbean, if we're talking about terroir, trying to twist my tongue to say the Italian word, right? The champagne, right? Because yes, we have ideal land to produce quality ganja in the Caribbean. We have a climate where we have a lot of moisture and we have a lot of sunshine. And in the North America, most of it is lab weed because they don't have sunshine all year round like we do. So that's the thing where...
Hear this, sister. Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you. You see, when you get up 4 o'clock, ask the Honorable Minister if he ever wake up 4 o'clock in the morning and burn a weed. If you wake up 4 o'clock...
I did ask him earlier on this evening if he ever smoked. He said he didn't actually. But
well, then what you're doing around making laws for this?
He did say, though, because I did ask him, because somebody posed the question on WhatsApp if he ever did it, and he said no. And then I asked him, I said, so... He said that if it's in terms of medicinal, like, for instance, you have some ailment and whatever, and you need to try it, of course, he might be open to that as well. I said, so all right. I said, so what about you and the brethren?
Hypocrites.
But I said, what about you and your brethren?
Hypocrites.
Your brethren make a Jamaica run, but Marley in the background. What you going to do? He said, well, hey, I feel, I will get in there too. But as for now, he hasn't.
Ganja hypocrites, right? Ganja hypocrites. They want to benefit from the financial aspect of it, full stop. 4 o'clock in the morning, you burn a weed and prepare for your day, my brethren. People could hardly get you vexed before the day done. Marijuana is an inspiration. Marijuana is words written in a herb that help you to heal, that build you, strengthen you, keep you calm, keep you focused. If you have never experienced these things, he need to smoke a weed and write the laws. If you never smoke a weed, you can't write no law for ganja, man. You sober.
Yes, sir.
You see it? You're not in the place where we are mentally to write a law to bring justice to the people.
Let me hear Otto Carrington. Otto, get in on this conversation.
Prophet
is fiery right
Prophet, now. I just want to come back to where, the minister would have talked about the laws and legislation. I know you have been, heavily critical about it, but from a Rastaman perspective, do you all see from the aspects of getting involved in the industry? I know you're already in the industry, but because the industry may be regulated, and if you're outside the regulations, you'll be persecuted. Is that something you all will still work towards, or you all will?
That's the trick in it, because we have been planting weed in Moruga on land that we don't have the documents for.
Correct.
All right, so it's termed a illegal way to go about it. When these people who are making the laws have the land, and then they bring about the legislation, now you can plant, who you feel going and benefit all entirely from it? When they have the machinery. We have to use a cutlass and a spade. Them come in a tractor and backhoe. When the quantity of marijuana start to be exported from Trinidad, who going and be the number one exporters?
So you see persecution in another form?
Man, it's still slavery, man. Them weak.
It's definitely not progressive. It's definitely not a progressive approach. If I could just jump in on the answer that... when you look at firstly, when we talk about CARICOM and we look at all the legalization models, only Antigua has given sacramental rights to Rastafari, and not only that, they have given over half of the profits from taxation of the legalization of ganja to Rastafari as a form of reparations. And only Antigua has done that. If we are talking about partnership and correcting the wrongs of colonialism, then we need to also address that these, as Prophet said, these laws have been hypocritical.
Let me ask you a question, Prophet. Because this came up in season 1. Similar conversation, similar point, right? And I think it was mentioned at that time, right, something like what you mentioned may not happen here. Not saying it can't, but may not happen here. Would be because of the amount of different religious bodies that we have. What is your take on something like that? Because remember, Hindus also.
Then we're fighting against the anthem. The anthem says every creed and race find an equal place and may God bless our nation. What is the problem?
So in other words, so you see, I think what happened in the last season and what would come forward here now would be that if one group gets it, every group might have to get it. Where Trinidad and Tobago is concerned. Is that what we got out of season 1? Yes, no? Meaning, in other words, if Rastafari is to get the same vibe, then the Hindu community might get it.
Everyone.
What's the problem with that? I don't know, because I don't know. Is it something, in other words, is it something that you're seeing? I don't know, I'm asking here. Because Rastafari is Rastafari who we're speaking to now. So my point is it the case that Rastafari was close-minded, I would say, and I don't want to use it bad, but close-minded as in Rastafari should receive these benefits, or as you are saying here, is it really a benefit everybody should be open to?
No, man.
All religious bodies should be open to.
It's not just one people has been persecuted for marijuana over the years.
Which is what I wanted to get to.
Indian people has been persecuted. Muslim people has been persecuted. Different people has been persecuted. So the laws should be equal for all. It's not just, Rasta suffer the most. Right, so as the sister now say, the people from Antigua, the government of Antigua, who is so considerate so as to put aside some type of reparation, in a way we're saying we apologize for the persecution of the past, and this is how we're trying to make amends going forward. This shows some type of governmental consideration on behalf of our suffering of our people. But to come here and talk fancy about laws like if that's supposed to make we feel we benefit, I find that stupidness, my bedroom.
But Prophet, you don't think that, we can't expect anything better from the politicians and them really, and truly in the grand scheme of things? I say that because for years and years and years and years, people talk about these things, and it has been heavily policed, and persons have been abused and locked up for a small piece of weed, and endanger their lives and their livelihoods as a result of that. But you don't think that, a little bit still better than nothing in that sense? Small mercies now. Thank you for small mercies now. Is
no. That don't make no sense. That don't make no sense, my bedroom. It small mercies, as you say, better than nothing. That is just to make us smile. We ain't no ganja junkie, my bedroom. People going and make plenty money off of this. So we supposed to be satisfied with getting high and staying broke, whilst the people who have never contributed to marijuana in any positive way, they bring down communities, they destroy families with the same stinking laws that they're trying to make today to make it sound like a smile. This is a serious. I speaking on behalf of all ganja man in Trinidad and Tobago, all ganja woman. If I'm hated or persecuted for what I'm saying, I welcome it. But for sure, I know that them politicians knows nothing about the value of a joint in our lives. So don't come here and make it sound like you planting weed for over a year and doing research on weed for 1 year. Bedroom, come on. I have weed home for a whole year already.
31 minutes after 7 o'clock, we have some guests in the studio right now. This is Heights, where knowledge grows. Quick commercial break, and we're going to come back with some more you don't want to miss right here on Slam on 00.5 as 106.5 Freedom FM. Thank you guys so much. Of course, your phone calls are coming up as well. 623-1005, 623-5001, 624 1005.
100.5 FM, Freedom 106.5, and the hosts of this program do not advocate the sale, distribution, or transportation of cannabis, especially for persons under the age of 18.
Rastaclusive. Prophet Benjamin presents Rastaclusive. It's featuring Jam Melody, King David, Mr. King, Zebulon, Logic, Jelano, Rion Elbon, Justice, Jazzy Blaze, Daniel Bless, Russell Rankin, Jaron Nurse, Malachi, Ja Banton, and many more. You're going to make sure to be a part of it. Scorpion International will be there. Quick Star. Lion Twin on the inside. Black Chariot is also going to be there. Get your ticket at Cheetah's Bear Garden. Desi Bar in Mora. Butcher's Bar, Point Fortin. Biggs Bar, Point Fortin. Dev's Barbershop in Coquier. Magic Auto Body Works. Point Fortin, Borough, Saturday. Cheetah's Bear Garden. All right, gates open at 9 p.m. For more information, you can call 283-2020-374-4663, 476-2950. Cheetah's Bear Garden. We're talking Borough, Saturday, the 6th of May, 2023. Prophet Benjamin presents Rasta-clusive. All the reggae stars are going to be there, all right? So make sure and be a part of it, all right? Let's get back into our conversation, boy. We have Prophet Benjamin and Empress Q on the inside as well, too. Thank you guys so much for joining us. It's 20 minutes on the upswing to 8 o'clock. Heights where knowledge grows. Kia Thomas, you had a question for Prophet Benjamin?
Yes, indeed. But before I get to that question, I just want to also remind folks that you can log on to Heights in our YouTube channel and also on our social feed as well, and see some of the content that we have. We recently uploaded our first episode, so you could definitely want to check it out. So to Prophet in your house, Prophet Benjamin, we know Trinidad and Tobago, the whole region know that you are a cannabis
connoisseur.
Yes, and one who is for the people, an advocate. And as such, what are some of the key initiatives? What are some of the key initiatives or messages, but rather key initiatives you would want the government, or not just the government, but even the private sector to take as it pertains to this particular industry for Trinidad and Tobago?
That is a weird question to me, to be honest.
You mentioned some stuff before as it pertains to, but...
I think that to the direction where marijuana is going internationally or has been internationally, Trinidad is way behind from any type of economical benefit from marijuana. This is because third world country and, ignorant politicians, people who don't know, who have no clue, no understanding, they're still living in the stigma that was given to marijuana years before today. And now something that was once termed a drug is now making countries rich. But before, when we were being persecuted for marijuana, we knew the value of. So today, if it is that it is to be, as they say, decriminalized, I hate that word. Because if you have more than 4 trees, you're still a criminal. So what do you mean? How?
Okay.
What? Okay, you have 4 trees, but you have to wait until we pass some laws to tell you. It's always what they have to say. Why they don't come to the people who are professional smokers? How you, who never ride a bike, could tell somebody about the value of the joy of it? How you, who never smoke a weed, they could make a law for it? You need to come find what that is, because you're going to make a loving law. Give a Rasta man that privilege to make a law, and the world will benefit. Not just the Rasta community, but a politician having that privilege that will make decisions for the politician to benefit and not the people on the ground. That is my issue with their law.
Prophet, let me ask you my last question I'd like to pose to you here this evening. And Empress, you can also take a jab at it as well too. What would you consider to be your greatest fear where this marijuana progression or digression, as you may look at it, couldn't be going forward? So with all the decriminalization and businesses and who getting license to do this and license to do that and everything else, what do you see as your greatest fear? Rastafari persecution after all the years, it looks like progress to the world in the corporate common world. Oh my God, progress in marijuana. But for you as Rastafari, what do you see as your, let me start with Empress Q first. What do you see as your greatest fear coming out of all of this?
Rasta not deal with fear. So, first of all, we have no fears about anything the shits them want to create, right? Because the thing is, we are already coming out of that kind of oppression and persecution. It's not new. If they were to do it now, like what after on the break, the brethren were saying about the 4 plants, if they took that privilege away, they can't do that again. You've already showed people the overstanding of the herb. People's minds are opening. People who had never thought they would have ever had anything to do with ganja now growing ganja in their gardens. So, it is. I think now what I want to see is that I want to see Rastafari and other groups, because I know of the deep cultural aspects of ganja to the Hindu community, but have they been vocal about that? That has been my issue as a Rastafari, where we as brothers and sisters should have linked hands, and said, hey, this is part of our Bhagavad Gita, this is part of our history, and they haven't. They've let Rastafari take the persecution, get locked up, lose our jata, right? We could lose our dread, but Ole could have Ole jata. And then when it becomes legal, Ole would say, well, it's a century-old ritual that we drink bang and smoke ganja, So that's my only thing, where I just want Rastafari people to understand what rights they have now and really go with it. Stand up firm about what ganja means to us as a sacrament, as a plant that the Almighty has put here for our healing. And we don't need any laws for a man to try and tell us what we can and cannot use when the Almighty make it.
Prophet, same question.
My fear, as the sisters say, we don't deal with fear. But if I was to entertain the concern, that the people who were the reason for the sufferation of marijuana users in the past be the same people to be the beneficiaries of this marijuana bill that they want to pass. They don't love the herb and they don't love the people. They love the dollar sign behind the product. That is my fear.
Yeah. So you think it's basically going to go all commercial and just over the heads of the common man?
Watch and see. Tell me what in this country is not.
I don't doubt you. I just ask myself, I just ask to myself.
Yeah.
All right. So Prophet, Empress Q, it's a pleasure having you guys on the program with us this evening. I'm not certain if we're going to wrap up entirely with you guys. But before I do that quickly, though, Prophet, I just want to ask you on a side, I see the event Rastaclusive. Tell us about that quick now.
Yeah, well, Rastaclusive is an event that I have been working on. This is the 7th year. Seeing that Trinidad is not really the hub of reggae music. Jamaica is.
Correct.
But soca is the hub of Trinidad culture. Mm-hmm. So there is pipeline all over the world to facilitate soca artists, should in case he's new and upcoming. In reggae, however, there is no pipeline for Trinidad reggae artists. And over the years, we get to see the value for that genre of music being decreased by the introduction of other genres of music that keep pushing conscious music on the back burner. So the generation to come not really looking forward to being the next upcoming reggae artist. They're going where the money is, and where the money is where negativity resides. So sometimes they're not really negative as artists, but they're broken. They have talent, but they're broken. So they're going which part the money is. If you give them a chance, if they had a conscious settings to bring forth the talent, to bring out the energy. And this is what Rastaclusive designed to do, to preserve the positive intent or capabilities that lies inside of all artists. And a chance to get a blind to be on a stage, and Rastaclusive intention is to reach all along the world.
That's a big point by Prophet there, real men broke. No, that's not a bad thing, but meaning that because of that is why some people do certain things, and the fear of not knowing how to earn, boy, is why I would say, boy, I make it here. They'll be willing to go, so it's harder to make it now. So you just go it easy sometimes. Yeah. All right, nice man. I like the way I like to hear Prophet speak. Prophet is a man who can sit down and have a good conversation with us happening on Borough Saturday, the 6th of May, Cheetah's Beer Garden. Of course, tickets are available at Cheetah's Beer Garden, Desi Bar in Mora, Biggs Bar in Point Fortin, Butcher's Bar, Point Fortin as well, Dev's Barbershop in Coquier, Magic Auto Body Works as well, so you can get those tickets. And you can also call 283-2020-374-4663 or 476-2950. Let me go over to Joshua and Kia again in the corner here.
Yeah, well, again, thanks so much, Prophet, for being, with us, and of course, Empress as well. Stay calm. It's a plant. Just one last thing. I just want to put a quick plug in.
Real quick, let's go.
Quick,
we have a segment
quick.
to wrap things up as well.
Of course. Prophet, what's happening with you and your music? What's your vibes like? What's happening? What you have in plan?
Well, a couple things. I have a couple songs. I have a Cocos Bagger song, right? But what we do have is a proper knowledge of the music industry. So a lot of artists has made a lot of mistakes along the way by just enjoying singing and performing and getting the hype. And then when you go down to the business aspect of it, the T's wasn't crossed and the I's wasn't dotted.
Okay.
So me recognizing that and being a victim of that, I intend to help the generation to come to not to be a victim of what is the problem for artists today. So I'm working on creating an atmosphere where they could be educated.
Good.
And secure that aspect of the talent as well, because if you're talented as an artist and you don't have proper knowledge of the business, you're going to be exploited. That needs to stop.
Empress?
I just want to big up the 3 days of 420 events, first Queen Omega's album launch at Greenyard. That was a big one. Ladies of 420 had their Kana party, and then in South we had the Ganja Gathering, had a 422 on April 22. So again, there's a Ganja Gathering, a cannabis community being cultivated whether or not the thing is legalized. Yeah, so follow some people, on Instagram, educate yourself. The knowledge is out there.
All right. Let me ask quickly, because we have this segment that we really need to go into, and I really want to ask the two of you all this before we get out of here, because I've been hearing it and I'm not certain, right? Most of them, Empress. Is it a case of laws or no laws in the business? Are you in other words, are you for structure going forward, or you could not be bothered?
I would love to see structure. Genuinely, I would love to see structure. If I quick, I'm a convent girl. I'm a University of Tampa graduate. I'm educated. And I always think, should I go back and get more education? Should I get a master's? Should I get a doctorate? The sad thing is I watch people who are qualified, and what are they doing? Yeah. And why it is that we are in a perpetual struggle. And that is my issue, really, Sonny. Like, would we be 20 years from now still talking about ganja being legalized, So my thing is, if we saw progressive governance, if I really thought my politicians loved me, because that was a question I really wanted to ask Farisad. I said I'm going to ask on radio, why does our government hate us? Right? Yeah. That's how I feel. Why does our government hate us? And until I feel that our government cares about the people and they're making laws for us, then yes, I have no problem.
Prophet.
Say over the question, please.
I was asking structure or couldn't be bothered. Meaning, as in, because I was getting a lot out of the Empress that, this has been here before, we've been doing this already, so you can't law me, you can't guide me like that.
Yeah, man,
and I'm asking basically, so structure or you couldn't be bothered?
No, structure, I couldn't be bothered. But because there is an economic benefit to the intent of marijuana, then it needs structure. And my issue is, who going and do the structure? Why are the people who are the foundation of the structure of it not a part of structure in it? That is my only issue.
All right. Let me go. We're gonna move forward. I have another question came through WhatsApp, and I'm gonna pass it on to the team that's coming on after. Because after the break, we're gonna have a segment called Grow Guru with Mark Siberan and Derek Achong. They will be providing tips for your legal grows. All right, we're gonna keep the lines open for you to answer some questions as well. So if it is yours thinking about doing some legal grows, keep calm. Don't worry, it's just a plant. You know what I'm saying?
That's the Pothole strain from the Caribbean Cannabis Collective. Big up them. They wanted to send that gift to you all. 420 Pothole strain.
I appreciate it. I'm going to pass it on to
Bless up all the breeders and planters.
Otto Carrington, have a good hand. He's going to make sure and bring this baby up to a young man for me.
Lady. We only deal with ladies. You're talking about seeds just now, but yeah.
I straight out that pen, And when I talk straight, mean all this sort of autocracy.
No, it's important. The ladies will do that.
Yeah, we need to the ladies. Blah, 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 blah. But, ladies and gentlemen, don't know that. All right? It's a pleasure to have you guys on the program. And Prophet, thank you so much for being here on the program with us. You can rock back for the moment, actually, and let me hear where the legal grows going.
All right.
Let's hear a little bit about that. This is Heights, where knowledge grows. Thanks for being on the program, everybody.
100.5 FM, Freedom 106.5, and the hosts of this program do not advocate the sale, distribution, or transportation of cannabis, especially for persons under the age of 18.
Time for the Grow Guru segment. We have with us consultant Mark Sibaran of Auto Nation TT, who is one of the top legal cannabis growers in the country. He is joined by our very own Derek Chung. Gentlemen, the floor is yours. Take it away.
Well, welcome, Mark. First time on the show, first Guru segment.
Yeah, Derek, nice to be here.
Nice, man. Well, the key is in the seed, always. Most plants would come from, if not all plants come from seeds, and the key is in the seed. Currently, under our Dangerous Drugs Act, which was amended in 2019 by Minister Alwari, seeds are classified as cannabis and plant material. So, as a result, while you can possess 30 grams of seeds or plant material, the law has agreed in terms of purchasing. There's no provision for purchasing, and that is coming with the Cannabis Control Bill and the licensing, which is yet to come. But if you happen to have gotten a bag seed within your imported bud, or you happen to have a friend who might give you some, or perhaps you might know somebody who might have gotten a little package along the way with some foreign genetics, or might have had a seed that they would have put down from something that they would have consumed, nice local from way back in the day, and you have it on hand. Mark, what are the tips of keeping and storing these seeds until you're ready to do the germination process?
Storage and handling is very important. It's going to determine if your stock is going to be good or not when come time to use it. For storage and handling, it's not really a hard thing. I've learned with storage, the best thing to do is consistent temperatures. A lot of research I've done says cool temperatures, refrigerate, and stuff like that. For seeds to remain viable, they need a consistent temperature. Obviously not hot, not moist, but dry, cool, dark, and you're good to go.
But in your view, how important is seeds and the genetics that they contain?
It's the most important aspect of growing in the industry, and I'll tell you why. Clones are basically a carbon copy of what they come from. You don't move forward with clones. You may have a really good cut, a really good pheno, and it does what you need it to do, but you're not going to advance from that clone any further than the capability it has. With every new seed you pop, you have potential to find a better one.
Mm-hmm. Mark, any quick tips about germination now? Let's go quickly into germination. What's your secret? What's your secret technique?
1% hydrogen peroxide. Listeners might think, okay, I don't see 1%, I see 3%, 6%, 9%. You get a bottle of 3%, you make a solution
3 to 1.
Yeah, 3 to 1 with water. You soak, and then usually if the seeds are viable, they're going to pop in that. And me personally, I don't like to let them go much further than once they crack and the radicle starts coming out.
That's the little taproot. Yeah.
That's the little end of the taproot coming out right there. Once I see that, I want that seed to start anchoring that taproot in a medium, not floating around in water. And you could drown the seed as well.
So you do put it in the paper technique and let the tap grow out a little bit more. You go straight into like a little pro mix in a cup. Light soil.
Well, that's a good point you're touching on. Every seed is going to be different. There's no set instruction manual that this is going to work for this seed. You will have some within 2 hours, you're seeing a radical popping out, and you're seeing action taking place. Then some for 2 days, you're not seeing anything. So if you have one that's moving kind of slow, you may have to go from soaking in a hydrogen peroxide solution to a paper towel to give it some time to start shooting out some more. Yeah.
In terms of success rates in terms of germination, have you noticed a difference in terms of, as I said, we all know how Trinidad works, the foreign expensive seeds, do you see greater success rate?
Not really. It varies the same across the board.
Yeah, so it's a situation where you could buy a $10,000 pack of seeds and none pop.
Right.
That is a possibility.
We just had that conversation a few minutes ago.
Exactly. What was the difference? How would you treat? Okay, so some of our listeners might be aware of this, but they are generally, most cannabis plants are photo period, which means that they flower when given a 12-12 light cycle, as opposed to feminine autos, which will flower even if it's given extra light, so like 18 hours, or there's a street light over it tell us how would you treat with those? You seem to be expert in that.
The handling of autoflowers is definitely very different than photoperiod seeds. You can't play with them like you can photoperiod seeds. With photoperiod seeds, you can move them from water to a paper towel into a cup, and then once they sprout, give them 2 weeks, and then you put them in a pot. You can't mess around with autoflowers like that because of the nature of them. Ruderalis, once those roots begin to see a certain amount of stress, it's going to start flowering. And because of the nature of ruderalis, it grows very, very fast. Now, that's not the steadfast rule. A lot of people will say, yes, I could transplant my autos, yes. But those are the exception to the rule.
Now, what's going on, guys? I want to kind of interject here, guys, because the conversation is going really well, and I'm sure you all know each other really well. But you all are also using a lot of jargons that I'm certain are flying over a lot of people's heads, including my own. So, yeah, I'm telling you.
No, I mean, please feel free to join in and ask.
So I would like us to go back 2 steps.
Okay.
Could you tell us a little bit about the auto and the...
And the
so the folks that may be tuned in and don't have any clue what's auto and what we do, all of a sudden we sound like we in the Red House family. It's only a bag of jargons going on.
Okay. So most plants, broken up into those 2 sections. The photoperiods flower when given 12 hours of light and 12 hours of darkness.
What is a photoperiod? Are we talking about a seed, a particular seed?
A seed, well, it's genetic makeup of the plant.
Okay.
So basically, ruderalis is from Russia originally, so they get more hours of light. So as a result,
ruderalis is what? That's also
that is okay. So there's cannabis sativa, cannabis indica, and then cannabis ruderalis. That is the scientific name.
Oh wow.
So the ruderalis can. Whereas the sativa and the indica will flower when given the 12 hours of light, 12 hours of darkness, which is like what we are accustomed to in the Caribbean.
Like my neighbor who right now in his yard, right now in front of the yard, in front of the house, he have a plant under black plastic heavy now.
Exactly, because he don't want the street light. He don't want the street light to interfere with it in the night. And as a result, leave it in the vegetative state. So you can control when you put your plant in the flower by changing the light cycle. So in your neighbor's situation why you're seeing him covering it up is because he's trying to shield the light from the street lamp or from your side light from interfering with the plant, which could turn it into a hermie. That does happen.
And how does one know if they have a photo or a ruby or
generally when you purchase the seeds or get the seeds?
Yeah, you're basically acquiring specifically, okay, I want photoperiods or I want autoflowers.
So exactly, Mark Ciberan. Let me go back a little bit here now. Autonation TT, Mark Ciberan, your consultant. Who is Mark Ciberan? What made you a consultant? Who are you?
I'm a grower. I have a passion for it. I have, I have a large network, for genetics and stuff like that.
Okay.
Derek and I share a lot of the same friends. We, like he was mentioning earlier, to get seeds and to get clones, and then you gotta know someone, and you stay within your circle. I might have a few, Derek might have a few. He might say, hey, I can get 2 of these, let me get 2 of these.
So for starters, backtracking a little bit with your professionalism and your expertise and all that, when we talk about the conversation of seeds, similar to what Empress Q and Prophet Benjamin would have been speaking about earlier in the program, what I'm understanding, and you correct me if I'm wrong, just being able to acquire seeds can have you in a criminal act.
Yes,
you can. While you can purchase it from a legal state in the US, like from California, and you can easily do it on the internet, the illegality comes in when it is shipped through any of the skybox services and it reaches here. Technically, you are importing cannabis.
This brings us back to our previous conversation where Empress Q was really heated about. Long and short is, if I am allowed to grow 4 plants,
where am I getting
these seeds?
Yes, so it's illogical. Yeah. But that's what I say. I mean, a bird could come and drop some by you, or you could have a friend who happen to give you a box. I mean, we had to face the reality.
So in essence, it's still encouraging people to be a criminal. So we regard that because you're going to have to hunt it in such a way as in...
I mean, I think...
How did you acquire it?
If you view yourself as a criminal, you just...
Yeah, exactly. It's not like viewing yourself as a criminal, but you're hearing what's going on here.
Why view yourself as a criminal for?
Forget viewing yourself.
Besides viewing yourself as a criminal, one of the points that we did not raise is that the amendment to the Dangerous Drugs Bill also quadrupled every single fine. So when trafficking used to be a kilogram of weed, now trafficking is 60 grams, and the punishable fine is maximum $3 million, when it used to be 50,000 TT for trafficking. So all the fines now are $250,000 plus. So definitely you have to either stay in your lane or you're going to be very highly criminalized.
Yeah, they put you in a position. But let's continue the conversation. I want to say, guys, quickly, anyone that is tuned in right now, and this is a growing segment. If you're someone that has attempted it, maybe an auntie, a tanty, and then, or, you know what I mean, you're just getting involved, or you're always into agriculture, and you really want to get more exposure on this, maybe you have a family member who say, you know what, I want to try make my own ground, this is a piece of local, who might me, whatever, and you're having some concerns with growing, you can call us up as well. Maybe send us a question on WhatsApp or even on our social media pages. You can give us a call, 624-1005, 623-5001. We're going to accept your calls right now. We have consultant Mark Siberan who's inside with us, and he's also conducting this conversation with Derek Achong. Gentlemen, please continue.
Mm-hmm.
So I stopped you with the whole Ruby and the Poly and
yes.
went into that.
So basically, as the reason why persons may grow the autos is that the autos would be able to flower even if it's given extra light in the night. So like if a street light there, it's not going to interfere with it or affect it. So in a situation like your neighbor, he can try to grow autos.
And let me ask a question here. Let me throw in another question. So a man like my father, former police officer, he will not smoke marijuana, no, I'm certain. However, I wouldn't doubt my father would put a plant in the yard. You know what I mean? Also, these Everpeak bottle always have a whole plant inside it. You never know where they get that from, right? Mm-hmm. So someone like my father decides, you know what? I feel like I could plant a small thing. Let me try my hand. Just for recreation, you know what I mean? Whatnot. What would you advise the recreational grower, although the neighbor who might really want to use it could get it, but my point is, what would you advise the recreational grower to acquire? What would be the starter pack?
Start simple.
What do I need?
It's easy to get ahead of yourself on Google because you're going to see a lot of nice stuff. And every advertisement is going to make you think like, I could do this.
Or that you need this.
Yes.
Or that you need this.
You need this and you could do this. And it's not that easy. It takes a while to get to that level of what you see in there.
Yeah. So what's a good starter pack?
Something suitable for the outdoors. Something that could deal with humidity and heat. That's if you're growing, well, you said in the yard. That's where I see a lot of outdoor growers here go wrong. They have the method, they have the knowledge, they have the tools and equipment. They're growing the wrong stuff because they want to get that nice thing they see, but it's just not suitable for the environment they're growing in.
Yeah.
And it becomes a problem.
And a Rastafari once hooked me up with like 4 plants, like 4 different buckets. Mm-hmm. And after like about 6 weeks, the plants didn't go past like 4 inches. And I waste my time. I was like, actually, it was a whole 3 months. Actually, I think a whole 3 months. The plant barely looked like it grew.
That could be a multitude of factors. That's
it had no roots when I left it out. I didn't know what happened. It was too wet. I don't know, boy. And that was my one and only time.
Drainage is important as well in the medium too, as well also too. So to be honest with you, from growing other plants like tomatoes, stuff like that, it is one of the most complex plants that you'll be surprised. You think that it's a weed. It's that it could grow on the side of the road. Yes, it can, but not to produce
what about
the outcome that you might desire or want.
We're going to take a phone call now, but I want to talk about some of the myths of planting marijuana. So, for instance, you would hear people say you had to put milk, you had to put honey, you had to put eggshell, you had to put
extra for calcium.
You're making an omelette or
chicken manure. I would hear a lot of different things. You know what I mean? So I wanted to debunk a few of those things because they have some men who are growers that will be like, dog, if you're in piece of sawdust and you open a tin of Vienna sausage in it and you think it wouldn't work. You know what I mean? So they have people who have stuff,
that's
right?
the beauty of it. I mean, with plants even too. I mean, there are growers who might do different things and they can still achieve great results. I mean, so that might be.
I just peel a pineapple and put the skin on my flick. And
that's
give it a little flavor.
I mean, we can't discount what they're doing, I mean, yes.
Okay, in all honesty, Derek's right. All these, you call it myths, they come from somewhere. They come from some truth. That's how it started.
Yeah.
But,
so there's no rights, there's no truth to some of these things? Some of these things?
No, I'm saying...
So the pineapple skin does work? The eggshell? Calcium?
So if the pineapple skin was to be broken down and formed into like a tea, which is like it will be an organic fertilizer. So the pineapple skin might work well because of the phosphorus and potassium. It might work well for flowering. So that might be a good flower nutrient. But just taking a piece of pineapple skin and throwing it on the pot is not going to provide the nutrients to the plant. You have to break it down.
Dog, you don't know what you're saying, dog.
No, okay, all it is a pineapple skin.
What about the milk and honey then? You hit it on milk and honey in your plant.
Well, the
milk and honey, no?
Milk might be good for,
honey for the sugars, starches for microbes. That's good for organic growing. That's how
that wouldn't get ants to come and bite up your tree, though. No,
ants will come bite your tree because they
can
want
spray. You can put cayenne powder on the rim or that come out that I can't pronounce it.
It won't really attract them. Just the dirt will attract.
624-1005, 623-5001. Let's see if we can get a couple quick calls. Someone here says another question. Maybe they missed it earlier on. They said, "Where do I get seeds to buy?"
Well, again, we said it's agrarian law, like actual cannabis. You can't purchase it right now, but I'm sure if you ask a friend, they may have a friend who might have some seeds left over from something that they would have consumed a while back that was, really pleasurable for them, so they might have kept, or they might have a link up that might have a seal pack from Cali.
Let me ask another question here now. Boom. You get a piece of herb in Trinidad and Tobago. You end up with a 2-seed pop-up. How do you even know if you have a good seed?
But first you have to determine whether you have a male or a female.
How do you determine that is my question. So you're an average Joe, and you also want 4 plants in your yard because everybody can do it, right?
Right.
You happen to pick up 2 little seeds. How do I even know it? You know, like you put the water to float and see if it's good, or you have to put a light through it?
You have to germinate it.
You have to try germinate it.
And how do you know if it's masculine or feminine?
When you
start to bust,
okay, seeds are usually sold as feminized or regular. So with the feminized, pretty much guaranteed you would only have feminized seeds. With the regular, it's like a 50-50 chance that you're rolling a dice and gambling with. So basically, 4 out of 10 might be female, or it might be 6 out of 10 might be female, and male vice versa. So you have to wait until they put it in the flower on a 12-12 cycle to really tell, because if it's in vegetation, you won't be able to tell.
Now, folks, we did say we're going to give you guys a little extra. We're going to go till 8 p.m. Of course, we're going to carry you guys for another few minutes because, this is really important to us here right now, and of course to you guys, and we thank you all for staying with us. 624-155-623-5001. And this segment is new to our program. It's called Grow Guru segment, where we're focusing with Mark Siberan, consultant, as well as Derek Achong. They're going to speak about the potential of being able to grow your own plants. What do you need? What really goes into it as well? All right. Someone's asking here, what benefits are there? What benefits are farmers getting? What do you know as in terms of growing?
Farmers, if you utilize your 4 plants, which we are allowed under the law to grow, well, if you are a consumer, you're saving money in the long run. You also have the pleasure and the recreation of actually doing some gardening, because at the end of the day it's planting. So while some persons find like cactus or desert rose or roses, or
you have cannabis.
You have cannabis. So if you actually like the product or consume the product, it's a win-win situation. I don't know what Mark want to jump in there.
A lot of people grow not just for flowers, I mean, I know some of the best growers I know, they don't consume flowers. They love the aesthetics, they love the process, they share with their friends. Yeah. And that is the best answer to that question. The person asks where to acquire seeds. Network within your circle, other growers, people you know.
All right. So, gentlemen, anything that you would like to put on the program before we put a cap on it for this evening?
I would just like to remind our viewers that we'll be back here next week. You could call in, you could send your questions if you have any burning questions, anything that you want to show about with growing. Please send in the questions on our social media pages, and we'll be glad to address it in the next edition of our Guru segment with Mark.
And Mark, it's also a pleasure having you on the program this evening. I'm sure he's going to be back with us next week. Yes. Talk to us. Anything you'd like to close off on this evening?
Derek pretty much filled in the blanks right there. I mean, I encourage people, call in. There's no such thing as a stupid question.
Yeah, and how do we get onto you other than this program?
You can reach me on my Instagram page at AutoNationTT.
All right, AutoNationTT. Thank you guys so much for being a part of the program. Ladies and gentlemen, that is it for the second episode of Heights. Be sure to join us for episode 3 on the 2nd of May. We will be joined by agricultural cannabis trade attorney and High Times 100 selectee, Cheryl Powell, Esquire. Oh, man, that's going to be nice, man. Of course, Bongo Grease of all mansions of Rastafari, senior lecturer of pharmacology and herbal medicine, Dr. Yuri Clement, as well as reggae artist Jalifa is going to be on the program, all right? So we want to thank Prophet Benjamin Empress Q, of course, our guest Mark Siberan, and our panelists. Thank you guys so much for being on the program again. Kia Thomas, Otto Carrington, Derek Achong, of course, Joshua Simongal, our camera team that we have inside. And on our second time guest, we must thank for coming back on the program again, is Minister Faris Al-Rawi. It was a pleasure having him on for the first hour of the program. And we thank you guys for joining us again. Remember, for more, you can check us out on Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok. All right, follow Heights to get some more of that information. You can also drop us a DM, send us a message, a quotational piece, or something if you'd like to share some more information. Please look out for some more clips and videos coming out of this evening's program, as well as our last week's program online as well. Check out some of our shorts, like it, share it, tell your friends, tell your family. And of course, if you want to advertise with us, get in contact with us right here at slamtrinidad@gmail.com. Say, hey, I'm from so-and-so company, and I want to advertise on Heights, where knowledge grows. Thank you guys so much for being a part of this program. That's it for us right here. Yours truly, Sonny Bling, saying have a fantastic evening. And yes, as I said earlier in the last show, today is my birthday, guys. And yes, I spend it working because I'm that kind of guy. That's what we're talking about, you know what I mean? Heights is the way we go this evening, where knowledge grows. So thank you guys so much for tuning in. Have a blessed evening.
100.5 FM, Freedom 106.5, and the hosts of this program do not advocate the sale, distribution, or transportation of cannabis, especially for persons under the age of 18.